Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel here. We're going to be talking today about one of my favorite subjects, and it has to do weapons. Okay, and one of the favorite toppings on the weapons is going to be the Glock. Now, guys, I am a very big fan of a Glock. Always have been, ever since I've able to get my hands on the one back in the early 90s. Give you a little bit of background about me. Back in 1998, I became a police officer and was a police officer for 15 years. Then I finally retired, and thank the good Lord. So with that, during the 15 years, I had carried a Glock 21 with a small department, and then when I left the small department, I went to a bigger department, and then they had a Glock 21 that I was issued. Now that Glock 21 never failed me when I needed it the most. Then eventually later on, they had changed from a Glock to a H&K subcompact, and I always loved the Glock, and always kept my hands on one if I could. I've always had several Glocks throughout my life. And Glocks have always been very dependable. So, as time had marched on, sometime around the 2020 area, a lot of you guys may know that ammunition went through the roof. It got to the point that if you could buy guns, you couldn't afford the ammo. So I was like, well, man, what in the world? And so that switched me over to, I've always had 22s in my life. Grew up, my dad had an old Marlin, I think it was a Model 60. Pretty much about everybody had that Marlin rifle growing up. It had the tube loading, and that was just kind of where I cut my teeth on firearms as a kid growing up. And so 22 has always kind of been in my cabinet, if you will. And but I've never really owned per se pistols, if you will. Pretty much the stigma behind 22 pistols, it's always been kind of iffy, if you will. It's kind of like I had a Mustang one time, and somebody asked me, why don't you get a 5.0? Well, I mean, this car here has got enough power almost as a 5.0, so why do I need to spend all that extra money? And that's kind of what people look at it when they're looking at a 22 pistol. Like, why don't you get a 9mm or a 40 or or SIG 357 or 40 caliber or a 10 millimeter or 357 or 38. Well, it's all really your preference. Now 22 may not have the knockdown power as a 357 or a 9 millimeter, but it's still going to do damage. Being as a police officer, I can tell you pretty much that first one or two shots, people are not going to be thinking, is that a 357 or is that a 40 caliber or is that a 44? When they hear that bang, they're going to realize, oh my gosh, that person's got a gun. One thing about a 22, it has a higher capacity than most other firearms, and that too, you don't have a lot of muzzle jump. And so with the muzzle jump, you can keep on target, if you will. And so like in a home invasion or something like that, if you had a 22 handy, most people are going to have a firearm with between 6 to 8 rounds. But with the 22, you can keep the rounds going down range at a very low cost. And I've always liked the 22. When I started staying gone, as I retired, I started staying gone more away from the house, driving over the road. My wife wanted to have something that she felt comfortable with, and a 9mm or 357 or 38 just seemed a little bit too much for her to handle. And so I started looking long term as far as trying to find something like a 380 or 22. But when you start getting into a revolver, when you start getting into semi-automatics, sometimes the slide can be a little hard pulling back. And so that's the thing that some women have, and some men too, they have issues with pulling the slide back. And so being that, I had looked around, and I had always had a mark on my finger. I had always had my eye on the Glock 44, which is a 22 long rifle, and then Glocks have always been pricey. My number one weapon go-to, if I had to buy a brand new weapon besides Glock, it would be a SIG. But SIGs, you're gonna pay a lot of money for a SIG, whether it be new or used. And so Glocks, you can still pick a Glock up anywhere, about $550ish or less. And but a lot of people are getting away from the Glocks because it don't have all the bells and whistles that some of the other weapons. Basically, a Glock is a Lego kind of gun. You snap it together and it's ready to rock and roll. Some people like having all that extra doodads, with the hammer and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, this has the Picatinny rails that you can see, but some people like all that extra doodads. But for me to make it, as we used to say in law enforcement, the acronym for KISS is to keep it simple, stupid. And that's one thing that a Glock does. A Glock keeps it simple. You just point and shoot, basically, like plug and play, like on a computer video game. You just plug and play. And so to me, that's what a Glock has always been about. So you're like, well, I didn't come to your channel to listen to all you ramble about this. I came here because of what you said on your title. Now, the title of this show is going to be, not the show, the title of this demonstration is going to be sound like Porky Pig there, is going to be, have you made a mistake buying this gun? Now, folks, I'm going to be honest with you. When I bought this gun, man, my hopes were way up there. I was like, it's going to be another Glock. It's going to be very reliable. I'm going to be able to shoot this thing for pennies compared to shooting a 9mm or a 380 or especially a 45. A box of 45s where 50 of them comes in a box, going to set you back about $50 almost. And this is 2026. And so, and I live on the East Coast, so they're pretty expensive. So if you enjoy shooting like I do, you got to have something a little bit more cheaper. And this is the answer: is the 22 long rifle. But when I bought this thing, I got it home, and it was about a couple of weeks before I had shot it. And I think the first time that we had shot this thing, I carried it to the range, and man, I was sucking at it. It seemed like it was like every 2 or 3 rounds it was misfiring. It was stovepiping. The rounds wasn't ejecting. I was like, come on, man, this thing is shooting like a high point pistol, Bo. And I paid for this pistol, man. I paid like $450 for this thing on sale. And I was like, man, don't tell me I've wasted my money on this crap. And with firearms in North Carolina, pretty much in every state, you can't carry them back, even if you've never shot them. Once you walk out that door, it's yours. And I was like, man, I have, this thing sucks. And I got on YouTube and looked after video after video after video, and I was like, what in the world, man? And everybody came back, the videos that I had found, it came back to one thing. And this one thing that I'm going to show you how to get this weapon to fire like melted butter, it all boils down to one thing, and it's not going to require any tools whatsoever, and that one thing is this. If I can right here, that right there, that right there is going to be the answer to your problem. What is that? That's a bullet. Yep, that's a bullet. Because that bullet right there, it depends on what type of bullet that you have. Now, I will tell you, this pistol is very finicky, if you will. It's very finicky about what it likes. Okay. Now, this thing is not like a high class girl that you got to carry her to a 5-star restaurant and put her in high heels and put her in a 7 Series BMW for her to feel happy. But you're gonna have to spend just a little bit, not a whole lot, but you got to spend a little bit of money on this thing, on the ammo, to get what you want. Now, once you find that happy spot. Okay, once you find that happy spot on this, you're gonna be kicking yourself in the butt. I hope that you haven't sold this, because I'm telling you, I started to sell this thing right after I got back from the firing range. I had already had it in my mind. If I can get this thing back here, I had already had this thing in my mind that this thing was going to be. I was going to find some way somehow of getting rid of this thing. Because I'm not going to deal when you need a firearm, when when you need a firearm to work, come on, really, I've never had this problem. This is the first time that I've had this. This is the first time I broke this thing down in a while. But when you need a firearm to work, you need to rely on it. Okay. Now, every firearm can jam. It don't matter if it's or jam or misfire. But what you need to be able to trust it. Is, you know, if you're shooting a firearm, and that thing is jamming up every third or fourth or fifth round, it's not really reliable. Now, if you shoot 100 rounds and it misfires or jams one time, then I mean that's acceptable. Okay. But what you don't need is this thing here to keep messing up with you, because it becomes junk, and that's what I thought I had bought when I bought this, was junk. So what I've done besides selling this thing, get my mat here like I want it. Besides selling this thing here, I got my camera upside down, so it's kind of like trying to drive a boat here. So I got back home before I said, well, I said, let me try one more thing, because I found one video on YouTube, and it was a video from Glock about this gun when this gun first came out, and they were showing how that they had claimed that they had shot all these rounds, over 1,000 rounds, and it didn't misfire, it didn't jam, it didn't misfeed, it didn't stovepipe or anything. I was like, okay, well, how are they able to do that? So what I did, I reached out to Glock, because I've had this gun here for about 4 or 5 years, and so maybe not quite that long. So I reached out to Glock, and I wanted to find out what's going on, because I told them that I wasn't happy at all, and I told them that I've been a happy customer, that I have owned probably about right at 10 Glocks in my lifetime, and so and I wasn't happy at all with this purchase. And so and then what they had wrote me back in the email, they basically told me, well, you need to change your ammo. And I was like, well, what ammo? Now, they wouldn't ever come up, because Glock is not going to lean one way or the other. Do they like ammo A or do they like ammo W? Well, they're not going to exactly, because they're not going to take sides on which ammo is the best. And so they just basically told me I just need to change my ammo. Now, the particular ammo, I think at the time, now I'm going to show you some ammo that I had in stock, and then what I had to go buy. And if you're like most of us, you probably have some of these already in your lockbox or in your gun cabinet, locked away somewhere. And these are the crappy ammo that is not working in this gun. Now, starting for the first one, let's set this stuff aside. Make sure I got this thing. Okay, make sure she is unloaded. I don't want to have this thing loaded. All right. So we're going to set this thing apart. Now, we're going to start from the lowest to the highest as far as foot-pounds coming out of the muzzle. Okay. Now, this thing here, this is you guys probably had seen this before. This is basically a Walmart or a discount box of ammo that probably everybody buys. And when you buy this thing, it's something like, I don't know, probably when I bought this thing, it's probably like $12, maybe. Okay, so this is Remington 22 Thunderbolt. Now, I've read on here because I've looked on the box, and some of these boxes I've had to go to the manufacturer to find out what the foot-pounds are. And let's see if we can. I don't know if we can. My camera is not really all that clear, and guys, I apologize for that. I got a cheap camera. I need to really upgrade this camera. Okay, but we see. Let me go back down here if I can find. Okay, up here at the top. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Okay, it's been right somewhere right about there. That's going to tell you this thing here is going to be 1,017 foot-pounds coming right out of the barrel. Guys, I wouldn't recommend throwing this away. Nobody will throw ammunition away, but I wouldn't recommend getting rid of it because it's still usable. Now, I've got a couple 22 rifles that are bolt action that are perfect for that. This is good plinking stuff, man. This is like, a box of 500, and a little bolt action 22 that I have. This is perfect. You don't have any problems whatsoever. But when you got something that is finicky, like it could be a Glock, it could be really any, maybe a Ruger 1022. If you're having problems with it misfeeding or jamming or stovepiping, maybe this is the same similar problem that you're having. It's your ammo. It's not the weapon. Because the Ruger 1022 is a fine 22 rifle, just like the Glock 44 here is a fine pistol, but you got to get that stuff that it likes, and it don't like this stuff right here, not at all, not this Remington mess. Okay, all right, so we're gonna set that to the side. So contestant number 2. Now I'm a big fan. You can probably tell already with my finger coat. I'm a big fan of the Aquila brand. Okay, and when I first came across this brand, now this box here I bought 2020. That was 6 years ago, and I paid $3 and man 2020. Wow, man, time is flying. I paid $3 and $3.75 for this box. Okay, now this Aquila, well, I may be pronouncing it wrong, but this Aquila is the 22 Super Extra 40 grains. Okay, get it turned to the side here. Okay, they got a little name for it, the Super Extra. Okay, now what I've been able to find on this thing here is 1,130 foot-pounds. Now that's getting a little bit better, but it still didn't like this at all. Okay, but it's still usable. I've got several boxes of this stuff that I can use. It's still usable, but the Glock, today's segment is going to be about the Glock. Okay, now the next contestant number 3. This is going to be the Federal, premium gold medal target. Okay, and this on the end is showing 1080 foot-pounds coming out of the barrel, muzzle velocity. It don't like this mass either. Okay, turn it around. I don't know if you can see. Well, we'll do it this way. It don't like this mass either. Okay, but this is still usable, because I got weapons that'll still fire this with no problems. Okay, all right. So we're gonna move on to the bigger stuff here. All right, so now as I got home and came back from the firing range and got my stuff together, I started, because I just went to the firing range with one box of ammo. I wasn't really thinking, and thinking that was going to be it, thinking that that one box of 500, but I didn't know I was going to have all this problem. So when I went back to the firing range the next time, I carried every brand and every size 22 that I had to the firing range so I could find what works. It was just process of elimination. Okay. Now, we were getting up to the point when I was shooting this. This was the Remington. Okay. This was the Remington. Okay. Well, most people have this too because this is very popular. This is the Golden Bullet bonus pack. Okay. Another Remington product. 550 velocity high point. Okay. This here is 1280. So what I was noticing, I was getting fewer misfeds with this. But it still wasn't quite the thing that I was aiming for. Okay, so we're going to set that to the side. Okay, now, all right. So I know everybody's got these here. The CCI. CCI has always been known for 22s. It didn't like these either. This was the AR Tactical 22 long rifle. And this was 1,200 foot-pounds, okay, of muzzle velocity. It really didn't like these at all, okay. Let's see, you got to find what works, okay. Process of elimination, okay. So now we're getting up to the stuff that it does like, okay. Now, going back to the, well, we're going to save that. And let me see here. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Now, this one here is the Aquila Super Extra 22. Okay. Now, as you can see, it has 1255. I know. I'm sorry for the blurriness, but it has 1255 foot-pounds of velocity coming out of the barrel. This was about the same thing. I was having fewer to less jams and misfires with them. Still having misfires. Okay. So now we're getting to the stuff that it does like. Okay. Now, I think they've changed the name on this, because this is still a Aquila brand, and I've always just gone back to Aquila, even though it may be a little bit more. This one box that I paid $11 for this stuff, guys. 11. It was 50 rounds to a box, so it's still roughly still roughly about 20 cents a round, roughly, maybe just a little bit more. Just trying to, I can't think right now. But I think the previous brand on this, or this was the older name of it, but this was called Super Maximum, and I think the newer name is called Interceptor. Okay, but as you can see down here at the bottom, this is 1700. I'll get this thing here. 1700 foot-pounds of velocity, guys. This was the aha moment. This was to the point. Okay, and you could even tell. I mean, it's just like with the pistol. With that other stuff, is like pow, pow, and then this stuff here is like kapew, kapew. Well, you like that sound effects. And this, man, you could just tell the difference in the sound of the weapon, and you could feel it. But man, that thing, and once you, man, I burned through like three magazines with no issues whatsoever. Now the thing with this stuff here, it's going to burn hotter. And so you may have a little bit more barrel heatage if you're doing a lot of rounds. So you just be mindful of that. The second one that it really loved, and this was the CCI Stinger 22, and this one here is going with 1640. So these two here were basically the sweet spot of what it liked. And without any modifications or anything, and like I said, I mean, my Glock 44 is all standard. There's nothing added to it. Okay, but these are the two rounds that I found, and it don't necessarily have to be these. But guys, when you're buying this stuff, making sure that you're at least getting 13, and try either 13 or 14 foot-pounds of velocity coming out of the barrel. 1400, I should say. At least a minimum of 1400. Because if you got 1400 coming out of the barrel, you shouldn't have any problem whatsoever with the Glock, with this stuff feeding. But this was the ticket. Okay, the Aquila Super Maximal or the Interceptor. Go into the Aquila website, and they have, like I said, I think this is an older box. I bought this back in 2022, so I think on the website that I just looked before I'd done this video, it was showing the Interceptor. So they might have changed the name on this to Interceptor and done away with the Super Maximum. Okay, but like I said, the Interceptor, I think it was the same velocity, if I'm not mistaken. But the CCI Stinger, and so if you find a Remington that may be a Remington or Winchester, or whichever it may be, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go with the off-brand stuff, because I've got some off-brand stuff. It may dirty up your rifle. But these two right here, once I shot them things, man, it was like it was really, my wife even enjoyed it. Because I could tell she was getting a little frustrated because every third round was acting up with her, and she just kind of lost confidence in the weapon. But then when I started shooting this stuff right here, I was like, all of a sudden she's like, "Ooh yeah, I like this." And so this is what I keep loaded in the weapon now. I don't care if it is $11 a box. If this is, or I can't remember what I paid for this, but it don't matter. If you know, now if it gets up around $20-25 a box, then that's a little bit steep for a 22. But who knows? I mean, things may get to that way before we know it. I mean, you know, everything is going up in price. But this is it, guys, and I just wanted to share this with you because I can feel your frustration. I see other videos where people are making on YouTube about this Glock and their frustrations that they have, and so yeah. Besides spending all that money and all this extra doodads, I've already had majority. Because I mean, I haven't done it in a while, but normally when I have a little extra money, I'm glad Walmart has went back to selling ammo. At least they have in my area. So normally when I had a little extra money or stuff, I would always go to the ammo side and get a box of this or a box of that, because you know ammo is going to be, you know, I'm not really into this apocalypse stuff and this survival and this death race stuff, but ammo is going to be something. If the crap hits the fan, it's going to be something you can be able to trade, because people are going to want to get their hands on ammo. Ammo is going to be like water. And like I said, I'm not into this gloom and doom stuff. I'm hoping by that time the Lord is going to call me home. But until the meantime, this is what I keep. This is what I keep. As far as that's concerned. And so this is, like I said, for another one. There's the other bigger brother. That's the Glock 42, which is the 380. Now, guys, I'm gonna tell you, the Glock 42, the 380. Back when I was a police officer back in the 90s, they did not sell these here in my state. I don't know what the deal was, but for the longest time they wouldn't sell the 380. It was only for federal marketing only. But I'm glad a few years back that I bought this weapon here. And like I said, I've got big hands, guys, and so this is the perfect weapon. This is the perfect weapon to keep as a backup, or to keep as a concealed. And so, but it's the same thing with this. But the thing with this, I think this is marketed after, I think it's either the Glock 17 or the Glock 19. This would not hardly fit at all in this case, because this little case that I have here, But like I said, this is lightweight, and this is what I carry with me when I'm walking outside. Now, I've got big boys that I can carry, but I don't want to. I'm getting to the point I don't want to walk around like Wyatt Earp anymore. I don't care for all that. But yeah. But this is it, guys. I'm about pistol poor here. But this is it, guys. I just want to share with you, and I hope that this really helps somebody to make a decision. Guns are very hard to come by these days, and if you get your hands on one, you want it to work. Got a buddy of mine who bought a High Point, and he used to be an ex-police officer. I'm like, dude, he said, man, I got a good deal. So yeah, I guess you did. Because what you bought a hammer is what you bought, because you didn't buy a gun, because that gun's going to misfire more than anything. But you get what you buy, you get what you pay for, anyhow. But anyhow, that's what I wanted to share with all of y'all. And I'll get my stuff here. Wanted to share with all of you, and I hope this helps. My name is JB, and hey, come up with some more material here, and we'll go from there. All right, man. Well, you guys have a blessed one, and Godspeed to everybody. Okay, take care.